Where were the cities of refuge in Israel? This is the question that we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of Joshua on Walking Through the Bible. Today we're going to be discussing Joshua 20 verses 1 to 9, but before we do that, let's read the passage. If you have a Bible with you, you can turn to Joshua 20 verse 1, but if you don't have a Bible, don't worry, just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So Joshua 20, beginning at verse 1. The Lord also spoke to Joshua, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, saying, Appoint for yourselves cities of refuge, of which I spoke to you through Moses, that the slayer who kills a person accidentally or unintentionally may flee there. And they shall be your refuge from the avenger of blood. And when he flees to one of those cities, and stands at the entrance of the gate of the city, and declares his case in the hearing of the elders of that city, they shall take him into the city as one of them, and give him a place that he may dwell among them. Then if the avenger of blood pursues him, they shall not deliver the slayer into his hand, because he struck his neighbor unintentionally, but did not hate him beforehand. And he shall dwell in that city until he stands before the congregation for judgment, and until the death of the one who is high priest in those days. Then the slayer may return and come to his own city and his own house, to the city from which he fled. So they appointed Kadesh in Galilee in the mountains of Naphtali, Shechem in the mountains of Ephraim, and Kirjath-Arba, which is Hebron, in the mountains of Judah. And on the other side of the Jordan, by Jericho eastward, they assigned Bezer in the wilderness on the plain from the tribes of Reuben, Ramoth and Gilead from the tribe of Gad, and Golan and Bashan from the tribe of Manasseh. These were the cities appointed for all the children of Israel and for the stranger who dwelt among them, that whoever killed a person accidentally might flee there and not die by the hand of the avenger of blood until he stood before the congregation. The land of Israel has now been divided by tribe, with each of the 12 tribes of Israel receiving an inheritance that was promised to them all the way back in the days of Abraham, some 600 years before. It has taken us quite a long time in our Old Testament study to get here, but I hope that teaches us that patience is always something that God desires us to have. So often we become impatient, and that leads us into trouble. Abraham lived in Canaan, but he didn't inherit it. The same could be said of Isaac and Jacob. For 430 years, the children of Israel lived in Egypt as slaves and didn't inherit the land. And then the generation that did leave Egypt didn't inherit the land due to their own rebellion at Kadesh Barnea. So another 40 years of wandering in the wilderness ensued before the second generation actually inherited Canaan. But Israel is now in the land. God kept his promise. Now all that was left for Israel to do was to remain faithful, a task that they would have difficulty doing. But just because the land was divided didn't mean that everything was done. There was the matter of the Levite cities, something we'll look at in chapter 21, and then of course in this chapter there is the appointment of the cities of refuge. Except for naming these cities and having these cities recognize their status, nothing else needed to be done. But we must remember that these cities would play a major role in the justice system in Israel, for they were the cities where someone who killed someone accidentally or without intent could flee to in order to escape the avenger of blood. We were introduced to the concept of these cities back in Numbers 35, but so that we can get a full grasp of God's intent for these cities, let's reread Deuteronomy chapter 19, verses 1 to 13. When the Lord your God has cut off the nations whose land the Lord your God is giving you, and you dispossess them and dwell in their cities and in their houses, you shall separate 3 cities for yourself in the midst of your land which the Lord your God is giving you to possess. You shall prepare roads for yourself and divide into 3 parts the territory of your land which the Lord your God is giving you to inherit, that the manslayer may flee there. And this is the case of the manslayer who flees there, that he may live. Whoever kills his neighbor unintentionally, not having hated him in time past, as when a man goes to the woods with his neighbor to cut timber, and his hand swings a stroke with the axe to cut down the tree, and the head slips from the handle and strikes his neighbor so that he dies, he shall flee to one of these cities and live. lest the avenger of blood, while his anger is hot, pursue the manslayer and overtake him, because the way is long, and kill him, though he was not deserving of death, since he had not hated the victim in time past. Therefore I command you, saying, you shall separate 3 cities for yourself. Now if the Lord your God enlarges your territory, as he swore to your fathers, and gives you the land which he promised to give your fathers, and if you keep all these commandments and do them, which I command you today, to love the Lord your God, and to walk always in his ways, then you shall add 3 more cities for yourselves besides these 3, lest innocent blood be shed in the midst of your land, which the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance, and thus guilt of bloodshed be upon you. But if anyone hates his neighbor, lies in wait for him, rises against him, and strikes him mortally, so that he dies, and he flees to one of these cities, then the elders of his city shall send and bring him from there, and deliver him over to the hand of the avenger of blood, that he may die. Your eye shall not pity him, but you shall put away the guilt of innocent blood from Israel, that it may go well with you. These cities were not a place where a person could escape to in order to evade a trial. In fact, when the avenger of blood came to this city, the person who fled there would have to be judged as to whether the person committed an intentional murder or what we would call a manslaughter. If the person committed murder, these cities could not be used to escape the judgment of death, for a person guilty of murder was worthy of death. However, manslaughter, even though it could carry with it the death penalty if the avenger of blood caught them, they would be treated differently if the person reached the city of refuge, for if they reached this place, they could remain within the gates of the city and be able to live there until the death of the high priest, at which time they could return to their home unafraid of being killed by the avenger of blood. Thus, they were not totally free to go where they wished. In other words, there would be a punishment, but that punishment would not be death as long as they remained in the city of refuge. There were 6 cities that were selected as cities of refuge, 3 east of the Jordan and 3 west of the Jordan. On the east of the Jordan, in the south, was Bezer of the tribe of Reuben. In the middle was Ramoth Gilead of the tribe of Gad, which our map mistakenly places in the tribe of Manasseh. And in the north, Golan of the tribe of Manasseh. On the west side of the Jordan River, in the south, we have Hebron of the tribe of Judah. In the middle, we have Shechem of the tribe of Ephraim, which again our map mistakenly places in the tribe of Manasseh, and Kadesh in the tribe of Naphtali. These 6 cities are strategically placed so that nobody on either side of the Jordan is so far away from any of them, so as to mean that they could not escape to one of them if needed. Of course, the ideal thing to do is not to accidentally kill someone, for then you wouldn't need those cities, but alas, accidents happen. By God's grace, though, he dealt with the matter of accidental killing in a way that punished the one who shed man's blood, but also showed mercy on that person because they didn't intend to do it. In the next chapter, we'll move on to discuss the cities given to the Levites. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of Joshua chapter 21, verses 1 to 12, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time. Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.